Effective annual rate. To understand what this is, let's look at an example. Imagine that I have a principal. Let's say, doesn't matter, you can just keep P. You have a principal P and the rate is 20% per annum compounded every 6 months, and time could be anything. Let's just put 3 years. What do you usually do? uh, I want you to see what is happening to this principal. 20% per annum for half a year is 10% increase per period. My period of compounding is half a year, so it will be 10%. So what happens to the principal is that, let's say I borrow this in uh, Jan 2019, and so I have to return this in Jan 2022. My principal in uh, 2019 Jan, by 2019 July, would have become 10% increase per period, so it would have become 1.1p. And then in 2020 Jan it would become 1.21p, because we are multiplying by the scaling factor of 1.1. And then in 2020 July it will become 1.331p, and in 2021 Jan it will become 1.4641p. You know what, we'll work with 2 years, we don't need 3. This is sufficient to understand what's going to happen. So the scaling factor is into 1.1 for half a year, and that is happening 4 times. Now let's just say I give you another different scheme of compound interest where it is 21% per annum compounded yearly. This is gonna give me Jan 2019, in 1 year it will become into 1.21. It will give you 1.21p. That is 2020 Jan, 2019 Jan. And in 1 more year it will be again into 1.21, which will give you 1.4641p in 2021 Jan. Does it really matter which option you get, as long as your time period is an integer? You're gonna get the same return at every point in between. You're gonna get at the end of 1 year 1.21 times your principal, at the end of 2 years 1.4641 times your principal. You'll notice that these two are equivalent. And so another way of putting this would be to say that this scheme of 20% per annum compounded every 6 months and 21% per annum compounded yearly are the same. And another way of saying that would be to say that the effective annual rate for this scheme is 21% per annum compounded annually. The annualized return for this particular scheme, where you get 20% per annum but it's compounded every 6 months, is actually 21% per annum compounded annually. And that's basically what this concept is. Now that you understood what it is, what is the quick and easy way of finding out the effective annual rate for a given compound interest scheme? First off, they're usually given for period of compounding less than 1 year. So if it is compounded every 3 months or compounded every 6 months, what is it similar to if you had another scheme with an annual compounding that gave you the same returns? What is the rate of interest for such an corresponding annual compounding scheme. That is basically what the question is. And so what we just saw was rate is equal to 20% per annum compounded every 6 months. And somebody could ask you what is the effective annual rate. All you gotta do is find the amount for 1 year. It is, you have a principal, it's 20% for a full period, 20% for a year, and so for the period of half year it is 10%, right? So the scaling factor is 1.1. And how many full periods do you have in 1 year? You have 2 full periods, so you'll get amount is 1.21 times p. All you gotta do is you gotta take that scaling factor, subtract 1, and you get 0.21. That is basically 21%. So this is the percentage by which the principal increases in 1 year, and that's essentially what they're trying to ask you. By how much will my principal increase in 1 year under this particular compounding scheme? And the answer to that is 21%, and that's your effective annual rate.